My name's David Jennings and we run an online marketing company called Melbourne SEO Services. We help small and medium-sized businesses get found online. Now, over the years, we've developed a pretty systematic approach for the way that we build businesses. And it's step by step. That's the real key, because I know you've probably already come across tons of different tactics and it always feels like there's another latest and greatest method to market your business. Now, what I wanted to do was really to distill all of the best bits into what should I do first? What should I do second? What should I do third? It's the same process that we use for many of our high-paying clients. Now, the reason we ran this workshop is one of my clients runs his own web development company. And what he does is he actually white labels a lot of our services. So he'll take maybe our SEO service, resell it to his clients, and add a little bit of extra margin on the top. So he knows our strategies work, and he asked if we would fly up to Toowoomba to put on a small, intimate workshop for some of his best clients. Now, we thought it was a great opportunity because we wanted to record the workshop so we could share it with you. So we flew up and it was a great success. We pretty much showed people from start to finish what to do with their website, how to make sure it's more sticky, how to drive traffic to it through SEO and web video strategies. We talked about social media and using press releases. We covered a whole variety of different topics, and it's some of the most cutting edge stuff, and it's step by step that anybody can follow. I think that's the real key with me. I think what I can do and share with you is taking all of these different ideas and strategies that might be floating around and distill them into one formula that you can follow. It's not just another bunch of strategies. It's a step-by-step approach for strategically growing your business. So if you're interested, check out session 1. I'm going to try and cram as much into one day as I can. The way that I figure it is we'll just try and pile as much on as we can, let it all sink in. Some of it will stick, some of it will definitely go in, and it might not be until 3-6 months down the track you might be setting up a Google Places account, or maybe you'll be placing your first press release, and then little memories might trig and you'll go, oh yeah, I remember Dave mentioned that is the best way to do this. So that's my outcome, is to try and pile on as much as we can and try and get you to a point where it's just full, and then we'll keep on cramming more in, and then at the end of the day we'll get to answer some questions and might even do a little bit of a site review. So I thought I might just start off, tell you just a little bit of a story, and whenever I like to tell a story I like to make sure it's got a point. So there's no point in telling a story unless there is a point. I don't tell stories for the story's sake. Through this one I'll give you a little bit of an entrepreneurial journey that I went through to get to where I am right now, and some of the things that I sort of went across. And I think there are little lessons, because everybody's going through this entrepreneurial journey and you're all at very different levels, and there are key little distinctions, those turning points that happened for me that I look back on now and go, oh wow, that was a really significant event. So first things first, when I was at school in year 12, I had a friend who was trading the stock market. We were sitting in maths class and he was telling me how much money he was making trading the stock market. And I'm sitting there thinking, here I am, the dummy. I'm sitting here just learning maths and I'm not making any money, while he reckons he's making these thousands of dollars, because it was the start of the tech boom and you could just about buy anything because the stock market was just going up and a lot of people were making a lot of money. So when I got to the end of year 12, against the better advice of friends and family and mum and dad, I didn't go to university, even though I went to a very good school in Melbourne, got a good high TER score. I didn't end up going to uni. I decided, well, I'm working in a supermarket, let's take out a $5,000 loan and go and do one of those weekend share trading courses. One of those ones that promise you're going to be a wizard by Monday morning. It'll just take a weekend, and maybe before I'm 20 I'll be able to retire on an island somewhere, with people fanning me and on a big bed of money. It didn't quite work out that way. I took out the loan, continued to work at work at a supermarket. So that was a photo of me working in the supermarket with one of the guys there. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to learn how to trade the stock market. And I went through this course, and I think one of the very first lessons I learnt was in your wealth creation journey, you need to have cash flow. That really is the start of all wealth creation journeys. A lot of people sit there, especially when they are new to internet marketing, and they'll hear about all this passive residual income and how great it is, and building up assets and all that type of thing. But the first thing that you need to do is make sure that you have cash flow sorted, so that way you've got the basics covered. You've got your overheads, food, you've got rent, all that type of stuff covered. So always focus on that first before you start building these other things. I found it very much in the stock market. It was a lot of people wouldn't make any money in the stock market because they'd leave their 9-to-5 job with their $10,000 and think they were going to trade the stock market. But there's a lot of pressure there when you're trading the stock market. If you've only got $10,000, you have to pay rent, so you need to continually remove money from the market to make sure that you can pay for rent and all that type of thing. So very similarly, when I quickly realised that I needed to have some cash together before I could properly trade the stock market. So what a friend and I did, that was the last photo was of Stuart McPhee, who was one of the guys that I did the course with. We got on really, really well, and I realised that there was a little bit of a hole in our community within the little stock market community that I was in. They all knew how to the basics of trading, but when it came to using a particular charting package, a piece of software called Metastock, they all got stuck. So we created a product. I think that was one of my first lessons, is when you're going to create a product, make sure that there is a need first. Think market first, and then make sure that you create the product. Try not to come up with a product first and then think about, well, who am I going to sell it to? That's a little bit us about. It's always market first. What do they want to buy? Make sure that there's a hungry market, and then give them what they want. So we created a product called the Metastock Programming Study Guide, and it was our first product. It was a physical product. It took us probably about 6 months to write. We sold it. It was an information-based product, and that was another one of those early learnings for me. Information-based product is some of the best products that you can sell, and regardless of what business you're in, it's always a good idea to see where can you create information-based product in your business. So how can you create DVDs that teach people how to do things? How can you create manuals? Because they're fantastic supplements to the core business that you're already doing. They've got fantastic margin. Typically an information product might cost you $10 to make, but potentially you could sell it for a couple of $100. For example, the Metastock Programming Study Guide, we sell that for $297, but it probably costs us about $30 to actually create and then fulfill and ship. So I mean, there's great margins in it. It's very scalable as well. It's not dependent on my time. A lot of you, when you first start a business, you're capped by how much work you can do, and we were talking about this on the car ride up here. There's only so much work that you can do when it's dependent on you delivering that service. So you start off delivering the service, getting your cash flow right. Really important to make sure you get your cash flow right, but then you need to start to think about, how can I create these information-based product or other streams? It doesn't even have to be info product, but basically create income that can be generated through selling of something that isn't necessarily dependent on you. So we created the Metastock Programming Study Guide, and then we ended up, was probably just before I was 20, we toured around Australia and did seminars in each of the different states, and the final one we recorded, and we recorded and made it in DVD. So that was our second information product. So for me, this product, it was great. It sold really well in our immediate community. A lot of people picked it up, and we were getting some great feedback from it. And then my next lesson came when I started to realise the sales started to slow down. And then I realised, it was a little bit of an aha moment when I realised the money really is in the marketing, because you can have that fantastic product, you can have a great service, you can have people raving about it, but unless you get the word out far enough to new people, then you're not going to make any money. It needs to get in front of the right audience, and that's when I realised the money was in the marketing. And I started going and attending a whole lot of workshops. just like you, like whenever there's a workshop on, I'll go and consume as much as I can. Constant, never-ending improvement. If you're a Tony Robbins fan, constantly consuming information and just getting better. So I started attending all of these different workshops. One of the first ones was a workshop run by a guy called Brad Sugars, and he runs the Action International Business Coach, and he had this thing in Brisbane, I think it was Brisbane, on the Gold Coast, and it was Billionaire in Training, and got some really good lessons from that. And that's when I really sort of started to form my ideas of how to make money. And then along the way, I got really interested in this whole marketing game, and went down lots of different rabbit holes and started reading things like Jay Abraham. Some of these names are worth looking into if you haven't heard of them. Jay Abraham, Dan Kennedy, these are some of the classic direct mail people, and it was all about selling and learning how to sell and marketing. And I think as business owners, one of the key things that you need to learn how to do is make sure that you know how to sell. Selling is absolutely central to everything that you do when it comes to being a business owner. So you want to think about what ways can you replicate your sales process, and that's why web video and things like that will work so well. And we'll talk about different ways that you can replicate your sales message so you can just get out there and sell. So one of the things that I did, and it was just before I went to the Brad Sugars workshop, I was reading a book called The 1 Minute Millionaire, and there's a story in The 1 Minute Millionaire about a guy called Paul Hartunian, and he sold the Brooklyn Bridge. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that story later on in the presentation when I get to the PR section. But what happened, they were doing some renovations on the MCG, and I got pieces of the MCG, like bits of carpet and wood and things like that, cut it up into little pieces, and then sent out a press release. Melbourne Man sells the MCG for $24.95, and sold little pieces and got picked up by the media. So that was like my first real sort of big entrepreneurial step forward, and I felt like that was one of those moments, as you're sitting there, you might not realise it, but you might be just about to break through. The next great idea could be just around the corner. It might be something that you hear today. It might be something small. It might be just that one little distinction, and then you get that aha moment, and then you can break through. So we'll make sure that we create those moments today. So, and then I continued going through looking at different gurus, and then I got interested in the whole internet marketing game. It started off with, like I was saying, direct mail, but then shifted over into internet marketing. I really saw that's the way forward. And I mean, you guys know that by coming here today. The internet is where it's at when it comes to business. Like, we've done a lot of offline business. We used to have a clothing store called Planet 13. It was sold punk, metal, gothic and rock and roll clothing. The triple stud belts and Rolling Stone t-shirts and that type of thing. And we were in, on Flinders Street. We had a store. We had a store in some shopping centres. And that business vehicle, when you compare it to online, it's just worlds apart. I mean, having just $11,000 rent just to start per month in for our city store, then you've got wages, then all the other expenses that come on top of that. When you compare that to internet business, it's just like chalk and cheese. The benefits of doing online business are so great, and it plugs into existing business as well. So if you've already got that existing business, adding that on could potentially be one of the most profitable things that you do. For what we did for Planet 13 now, like, we've shifted and it's completely 100% online. It was and still is the strongest performing component of our business. We get the best return on our investment by what it is that we market online, and some of the things that you're going to learn about today. So after going through all of these different workshops and things like that, like, it's very easy once you first start learning this stuff. It can get a little bit addictive. Just that learning that information, and you feel like you're progressing forward because you're learning, and there will be a point where you'll take what it is that you learned from today and start implementing it, and once the rubber hits the road is where you start taking this material and then start applying it in your own business. There needs to be a point where you just go, enough's enough. And I'd attended all of these different workshops, and it was almost like every second weekend I was going to another boot camp or one of these evening seminars, webinars and things like that. And I started to get a little bit frustrated. You might have had it as well, especially if you're an entrepreneur. A lot of entrepreneurs get this. It's almost like you're just digging a whole lot of holes, like little holes. If you imagine like a big field and you're just digging all of these little holes trying to find gold, but you never go very deep in any hole. So you've just got tons of these little different opportunities that you've tried, but you've never really taken one thing and just worked your ass off at that one thing and made that successful. And a lot of people, you might start something very briefly and then go, oh, this doesn't work. I tried it for 2 weeks and I didn't get the result. Oh, that one didn't work either because, this happened. But quite often, the common element, like when you go from one opportunity to the next and you keep on going from opportunity to opportunity, what is the common element that keeps on going from one to the next that might be causing it to fail? It's you, because you keep on going to every single one and you're bringing the same problems every time and you're not giving yourself a chance to fully explore that business. So what I want you to do is thinking in terms of your business, and all of today is about thinking about how can I take what Dave's talking about now and apply it to the business that I'm running right now to get more out of what I've already got. Don't think about, Dave mentioned this idea of, local internet business marketing. Maybe I should go sell these strategies to small business. No, how about we make your business work, and once you get that proof of concept, then start applying it elsewhere. So I got a little bit frustrated after attending all of these different workshops because I'd learnt all of these different skills and I hadn't quite broken through. Like, we had a little bit of success with the Metastock Programming Study Guide and a few different courses, and I'm a little bit embarrassed to say it. At the end of going to all of these different workshops and things like that, I had over 550 domain names that I'd registered in a whole lot of different niches, everything from ballet dancing all the way up to ice skating to, you name it, I was in every niche that you could think about. We took these public domain works, books that had fallen out of copyright, and started putting up all of these sites with all of these different content. And my idea was, let's throw as much shit up against the wall as we can, we'll see what sticks, and then we'll hone in on that. And there was something to that being said, but I wasn't giving my mind space to move because I just had too many things going on. And sometimes what you'll find, and this is one of those other key lessons that you'll take away, is how important that focus is. Getting focus is what is going to give you that real breakthrough. Taking everything that we're applying and talking about today, channeling it into your own business, and then breaking through to the next level. So I looked across all of the different businesses that we had, and I thought, what is the common element that is making the successful ones successful? Because I'd thrown a lot of crap up against the wall, and then I thought, oh, why is that one working? Why is that one working? Why is that one working? And the key for me was traffic. It comes down to getting, and it goes back to what I'd learnt a little bit earlier, this idea of you can have a great product, but now you need to get it in front of the eyes. If you've got the great product, you get it in front of the eyes, that's the magic formula. So then I started to think about, well, how can I develop these strategies as low cost as possible and the most effective as possible, best return on my investment, and start applying it to the core businesses that I wanted to have work. So we tested a whole lot of different. I started off with search engine optimization, and we'll talk a little bit about SEO as the day progresses, but there are a whole lot of other traffic strategies that we've now meshed into it. I went after SEO first because you think of something like pay-per-click and running Google AdWords, there's a cost associated to that, whereas for someone who is just getting started, SEO can look attractive because it's free traffic, like it's organic traffic, but there's still time and effort to build that up, and you still need to get articles written, and there's still investment that goes into it. So regardless of what traffic strategy you go after, there will be a cost that you have to pay for that. So we developed this method we called the SEO method, and it was a step-by-step approach, the way that we we built things and started getting them to dominate on the search engine. And we were in a real competitive space. We were in the stock market niche, which is one of the most competitive spaces that you can be in. Financial services, things like credit cards, mortgages. Like, I mean, they're up there. They're kind of, if you can make it work there, you can make it work anywhere. And we started, and we're still ranking for things like trading systems, which, I mean, that's a very competitive term. And our business just sort of took off, and we started selling a whole lot of things. It was almost like that breakthrough moment. I was like, yeah, traffic is what I need to come up with a system for. And then I created a system to almost cookie cutter that. And you could drop it into any website and get really, really good results. So that's when the trading business started to take off. And we started to build a team. You've probably met some of the guys, the current team as well. That photo's a little hard to see, but that was some of the original team that helped set up the trading business. And we also will look at outsourcing and how you can hire stuff over in the Philippines and stuff like that. But this was my local team. I think it's important to have the team members around you as well. That's another real key takeaway from the entrepreneurial journey, is you need to build a team. There's no way that you can really do it on your own. You will get so much growth once you start to add other good people in, and you find A players, people like Adrian, people like Sally. You make sure that you find the A players, because they're the ones that are going to help your business grow really, really quickly. So we built the team, and some changes happened with the Australian financial law changed a little bit, and ASIC came out and they talked about having licensing when giving financial information and things like that, and you could no longer give, like, I mean, they said you needed to be licensed to give general advice. What is general advice? Like, that's such a broad, sweeping term. So my business partner at the time, Stuart, he was in one of the photos earlier. We didn't end up going down the licensing route for a little while. We kind of diverged a little bit, and that's when the team, we pulled them aside and said, okay, well, what are we going to do? And then we'd found a lot of people had asked us how we were ranking. Like, I mean, we were coming into things like trading psychology. This guy had been going after the term trading psychology for the past 4 years. We moved into the space, and I think it was in about 4 or 5 months we ended up getting top position for trading psychology. And he's like, how are you doing this? And we started to get people asking us, how are you doing what you're doing? And then we thought, hang on, well, clearly we know what we're doing when it comes to creating traffic. That's our real core expertise. And it doesn't matter what business you apply it to. Every business needs more traffic. And that's when we ended up, Melbourne SEO Services was born. The team said, okay, well, there's going to be very small incremental difference for us to add in another business into our system. Like, we can just drop something in. The system's already there. We just need to write articles about different topics. We need to, the process is still the same. So we started to offer it as a service, and we found what we were doing in the stock market, hyper-competitive niche. You compare that to something like, Toowoomba outdoor camera equipment or something like that, and you'll absolutely dominate the market, because it's a lot less competitive space. And sure, you might get less traffic for those terms, but the person searching dentist Melbourne is a buyer with a problem who's ready to pick up the phone and place the order, rather than someone just searching dentist. Maybe it's a school project and a kid wants to find out what it takes to become a dentist. Like, I mean, that phrase dentist is a very broad term, whereas if you go for dentist Melbourne and start to target some of these geographic terms, you can really get number one position very quickly. You don't need a huge amount of traffic, and that traffic can convert incredibly well. So we started to get some really, really great results for these small businesses. And for me, it's always been a little bit of a means to an end, and I want to show you the way that my business is built, because I think the way that people traditionally build like business plans and things like that, I think is a little bit defunct. Like, I mean, the way that business grows so quickly and things change, I think it's important to have a plan for what it is that you're doing. And I'll show you the way that I create the plans, and I'll show you by having a look at Melbourne SEO Services. But what you want to do, particularly in this first session, is make sure that you take away a plan. That's what I want you to do. I want you to think about, how can I create a plan from what Dave talks about? I'm going to give you so much stuff, and the way that I've designed it is it's in a process and an order. So that way, okay, well, the first step is we need to get usability right on your website. Okay, well, now let's get the SEO component right. okay, now it's time to add web video in. And the order in which I've put these sessions together, it's not by accident, it's very much by design. So you can take what I'm going to show you and just put it into that order. I think the real thing to remember here is there are a lot of different things that you can do online. There's so many different strategies, but there's going to be typically 1 or 2 things that you should be focusing on at any one point in time. The things that are going to get you the best return on investment for your time. Things that you need to, if you do that, it's going to have long-term effect. I'm all about do work once, get paid forever about it. That's why I like info products and things like this. Like, I'm not going to come here and run a workshop unless I can record it, and then I can either sell this as an info product later or give it to clients as an upsell bonus or something like that. So it's all about getting more out of what it is that you've already got. So I'll show you how to create that. So the last bit of the story part before we really start to get into the strategy is making sure that you are using the right strategy. So I went and saw this guy. It'd been on my list to do for a very long time. His name's Richard Bandler, and he started a thing called NLP along with, he was co-founder with a guy called Grinder. I'd heard about it through, like, a few people had mentioned it. Like, I mean, Tony Robbins has got his whole thing where he calls it NAC, Neuro-Associative Conditioning, where it's kind of like a slightly rebranded version of much of the same thing. But it was all about, I'd heard about this guy, and I always like to go to the source. Whenever I'm learning about something, I like to go to the source of the information and get it there. So very much like you, I invest in my own education. You know, I flew over to the States for a week. You know, had it was like $5,000 plus all the accommodation and flights and all that type of stuff. And it was probably one of the best investments that I made. I remember seeing this guy and heard a lot of different stories about him. But one of the things, the real takeaways that I want to give for you is he talked about this idea of strategies. Like, I mean, we're all processing the world in the same way. Like, we're all getting the same stimuli coming in, but it's the way that you process that stimuli and then react on it that's going to determine, you know, what you do as a result of what happens to you. And he talked about this idea of the difference. He started off saying the difference between good spellers and bad spellers. So if you think back to, you know, school and whether or not you were a good speller or a bad speller when you're at school, and he did an analysis of these kids and asked them, what is it, when he asked the good kids, you know, when you're spelling a word, what is it that you see? Like, what actually happens? And then he asked kids who couldn't spell very well, what is it that you're seeing? And he found out the kids who weren't spelling very well, what they were doing is they were sounding out the words. So they were going k, at, t, okay, cat. That's how I spell it. Now that works well for words that aren't very complex. But if you look at much more complex words, once you try and start to sound it out, you're going to have trouble. And then he went to these kids who were spelling just, you know, they were knocking the words over, and he asked them, what happens for you? What's your experience? And they said, oh, it's different for us. They said, I visualise the words. I see the words about this high. They're in front of my eyes. They can spell the word just as easy forwards as they can backwards, because all they're doing is reading out the letters. So it's this idea of just the way that you're interpreting it and the model of the world that you have in your head is determining your results. So taking this idea and this strategy, he then went to Olympic athletes because he was employed by the US military to help them shoot better. So he was doing some training for some of the soldiers. So he went to the Olympic shooters and asked them, how do you like to explain the experience for me of how you shoot and how you can shoot so well and on target and get it every time. And the Olympic person said, well, I imagine that there's a little laser on the top of my gun. So he's got his gun or his rifle. There wasn't a laser there, but he imagined this laser. And he said, all I do is I'll line up the dot on what it is that I want to shoot, and then I pull the trigger. So he taught that strategy to the US soldiers, and then almost instantly overnight, they just started shooting better. Their accuracy went up through the roof. And it was just through this one idea, this concept of using the right strategy. So there might be a chance that the way that you're building business up until now, you might be using the wrong strategy. You might have been doing different methods. It's not that you weren't giving your all, or, you know, you were putting your heart and soul into it and you're just giving everything that you could, but maybe you weren't approaching it in the right light. Maybe there's a few finer distinctions, and maybe I can show you how to line the site up and make sure that you've got the little right dot. And then if you've got the right strategy, then your business might just come alive. So really that's what today's all about, making sure that you start to get the right strategies that could grow your business a lot quicker. So I wanted to talk briefly just about this idea of the wealth creation journey and building cash. I talked about this idea of step one, you need to make sure that you get cash flow right. So before you do anything, I was in a very fortunate position when we built out the Metastock Programming Study Guide. I was still at home living with mum, so I had my rent and my food and everything else covered. So I went straight into building info product, which is a residual automated style cash flow, because I had that covered. So whether or not, when I say cash flow, really what I mean is just have those basics covered. You need to focus your attention there till it's sorted. So whether or not you need to get a job, Gary Vaynerchuk, great book called Crush It, he talks about this idea of, if you need to go work in a supermarket shelf stacking for $10 an hour, where you work from 9 to 5, and then everything outside of that is free time where you can work on your entrepreneurial endeavours, then do that. Do whatever it takes to get that sorted. Then you want to the next step, once you get that cash flow sorted, I'm all about building your own business. So if you can build your own business that gets that cash flow sorted, that's where I'd focus. Then the next step, I would look to automate your core processes. So when I think about what we were doing, we automated the SEO component. That was for me, I thought, as a traffic thing, what can I do to make sure it's as automated as possible? And the reason you do it automated is so that, just like McDonald's, you can plug a 15-year-old in, and McDonald's hires 15-year-olds to run multi-million-dollar businesses because they've got these systems, and it's just about following a process. You want to do the same so that you can step out of your business, and this is Michael Gerber stuff, work on your business, not in your business. And that's really what I'm talking about for automating that core cash flow. From there, the next step is, then I like to do automated cash flow that's a bit more residual, whereas the core thing is almost about delivering services. So, whether or not you're a fitness person and the way that you might automate the fitness thing, you might create some processes, and then you can get other fitness trainers in to do the fitness training for you. That's how you do that. Then the next step might be, okay, well, maybe I'm going to create a set of DVDs of one of the people running these little fitness sessions, rock hard abs in 30 days or less or something like that, and come out with a DVD or something like that, and a suite of products that can then supplement what it is that you're doing. And it's almost like you start to shift into an info product business. And granted, you need to take everything I say with a grain of salt, and I don't know if you've heard the saying, if you're holding a hammer, everything looks like a nail. For me, info products is where I started, and that's just worked incredibly well for me. You might do a slight mix on this, but if this resonates with you, then it might be worth trying something. So that's, once you start to get that automated cash flow, then you want to invest that into assets. Now, start off firstly focusing, building your assets for business assets. So what I'm talking about there is, let's say, we'll just keep on using Willows as the example. Maybe you start to buy websites related to all around the fitness area. So maybe you start selling fitness equipment, and you might buy some other business, the fitness equipment that plugs in. We already know you've got the market, so now that you've got the market, you need to start to think, okay, well, what can I sell them? That's step one is find that market, then you want to find out what it is that you can sell them. So now that you've built up that core business and automated it, now you want to try and start to think, okay, well, what else do they want to buy? And then you start to add businesses in. And this is where I was saying, a lot of people just start digging holes in all different directions, and then they starting businesses in other areas, when really what you should do is focus. And then after that, then you start to acquire business in other you start to acquire assets in other classes. So I mean, to get wealthy, you need to invest in real estate, you need to invest in trading, and you should also look at business as well. So business is usually where I like to start because you generate cash flow, and then I like to funnel that money into real estate and trading, which is more of a, I don't use those asset classes for cash flow, I use them for capital growth. So to make sure that your cash grows, but I'm not looking at drawing money from it to make sure that I cover my day-to-day expenses. I think the reason business is the best place to start is because you get the best leverage. You get you. Like, I mean, you can put more of you into it, and that's where you'll get the most money back. Whereas it's a little bit harder in something like, well, you can. Like, I mean, for real estate, some people do it for cash flow. They might renovate a house or something like that. So they do the house up and then sell it. But the problem with that is I still feel like it's a big capital event. It's not consistent income, and it's about building that consistent income. Okay, so then what I want to try and focus on is this stuff, and I'll show you today. It's all about doing work once and getting paid forever. When I think about the Metastock Programming Study Guide, 8 years later, every month, I'm still getting sales of that product and I'm still getting paid. So not only that, we've built out a suite of products now where that whole side of the business just happens on its own. Like, very quickly, I'll take you through what it looks like. Okay, so this is my trading business at the moment. So up the front, it's almost like a funnel. I've got two products. We've got one that's called the Ultimate Trading Systems and one that's called freetradingsystems.org. And basically what they are is, if you imagine a business plan, like a business needs a business plan to get started. When you start trading the stock market, you need a trading plan. It's very similar to a business plan, but tailored specifically to the stock market. So, for trading, we created two products that teach people how to design trading plans. And basically, it's just a step-by-step process. First, you need to get your psychology right, then you need to get your entries right, then you need to get your money management right, then you need to get your exits right. And at the end of each chapter, I reference some of my products. So these are very cheap front-end products. Like, I mean, the Ultimate Trading Systems we sell for $7. I don't do that to make money. I'm not going to get rich selling a $7 product. I do that, it's a very easy on-ramp for my clients to get introduced. They pre-qualify themselves somewhat because they're spending a little bit of money with me, and they're happy to spend credit card. Then they start to build up the trust with me, and then once they've built up the trust, then I can start introducing them to my second product line. So how can you apply that in your business? How can you make it, no matter what it is that someone's doing, like whether it's a free report, whether it's a free video, whether it's a free something or a very low cost something, where someone can get to know the basics of your business. Like, I mean, for Willows, we'll just keep on using that as an example. You could have a report, or, you know, maybe it's like a 30-day program of getting fit at home or something like that. You know, just basic tips on how to stay healthy. And what does that do? That positions you as the expert because you're creating this content now. It gets them to get introduced to your products and services, and it's very low risk for them to get on. So that's where I use for my front end. And then we've got a whole range of products next to that. So we've got the Metastock Programming Study Guide, which I told you about. We've got the DVDs that we recorded. Then I made some other info products. We did Trading Secrets Revealed, which is a digital ebook, and some videos as well. We've got a Davis program. We've got Subtle Trap of Trading. There's a few other ones, Trading in a Nutshell. I won't draw it all out. The main concept is what I want you to get here, is this idea of having this cheap front end, and then at the end of each chapter, I just reference the different products. So I sit there and I go, okay, you're up to selecting your charting package now. Well, we use Metastock. If you want to find out more about Metastock, click here, and while you're at it, we also have a home study course. So buy the home study course. And that's what we do from there. And then from there, we kind of move to a slightly, this second tier, usually if you think about cheap, and then this is, maybe around the sort of $100 range or something like that. And then we kind of move into slightly more expensive product, the Triple Your Trading Profits DVD home study course, where it sells for, it's about $300. That now gets referenced in a few of these products, not all of them, but a few of the products reference this course, and that's kind of the next step up. And then finally, we've got the Online Trading Mastermind, which is your ongoing continuity program. Now that was version 1. That's where I got started. I built this business and I didn't even know I was building this business. I look back now and I can see it, and I can see where I went wrong. Where did I go wrong? Well, I didn't build it on a centralised shopping cart system, so it was very hard for me to get other people to promote these different products. Ideally, what I would have liked people to do, I would have liked affiliates, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I would have loved affiliate is someone who can sell your product and will get a commission from it. I would have loved an affiliate to be able to promote this and then get affiliate commission for everything else that the person had bought after they sold them this. Because then I'd just go out and find people who have my target market, and I say, here, you sell them this course for $7, or I'll give you the $7. I don't care. You can have the whole upfront cost. It's very enticing to them. Or maybe they give it away to their clients for free. Gets them into my funnel, and then they sort of get connected through to the rest of the product. So that was a big insight for me. The other thing as well, I don't like building a business where you're dependent on something else. I talked about ASIC and the regulators and that type of thing. Building a business, you want to build a business where you're very much in control. Another little rabbit hole that I went down as I was digging those holes, I went down the AdSense route, and I tried to build up an income running Google ads on my different websites, and you get paid a little bit of commission for that. And I built it up quite significantly, but then overnight, for some reason, one of my assistants thought they were helping me by clicking my ads, and Google didn't like that because they thought, I was trying to bump up my own earnings, and then they ended up cancelling that account. So almost overnight, bang, gone. So the biggest lesson, another key takeaway for you is make sure that you're building businesses where you have control over it. We'll talk about building things up on Twitter and Facebook and some of these social media properties, but the aim of the game for all of those properties is get them back to areas and properties that you own. You want to make sure you send them all back to you. It's always about getting them back to the asset that you own and building that database. The money is in building that database. So that was my first go, and I didn't really know what I was doing. So then we started Melbourne SEO Services, and I was a little bit smarter second time around, and over the course of, Melbourne SEO Services really isn't that old. We're probably coming up to a couple of years now, and what we did, the way that I built this business out, again, I started off with a free report, and some of you have actually already checked it out. It's the SEO Manifesto, and it's just a report that teaches people how to market online. It's a free report in exchange for their email address. So I'm getting someone to opt in onto my list so I can build a database. And then we're in the process of talking with Adrian's probably going to have a look at rewriting the SEO Manifesto, where we start to introduce some of our other products and services. At the time, when we first launched the business, we were just focusing in on providing SEO services to clients. So that's really what the report tries to sell. But now we're shifting the business away and we're moving more into the info product business. And I'll explain why we're doing that. But so we had our front end, which is the SEO report. Then we built out a series of product. We did an SEO course. We did an outsourcing course. We did a web video course. And we did a small business course. So we built out these, they vary in price, but info product, very high margin for me, infinitely scalable because, I don't have to be involved in the delivery of that. We outsource that to a fulfillment house in the States called Vivante. And then we have a few things underneath. We do workshops occasionally. I very, very rarely run the workshops. The only reason I run workshops is to create product. and I only run the workshop once. I don't run the workshop again and again and again. Like I like to do work once and get paid forever. So this workshop has a very clear strategy on where this is going to be used in my funnel. I'm going to probably use this up the front here. And you'll see throughout today, I'll talk about some of these different products. And the reason I do that, it's kind of like, it's an introduction. So you guys can come and see what it is that I'm doing, and I'll give you tons of great content. And then if you want to go further down any of these little areas, you'll know where to go. So we'll end up adding this workshop up the front here. The next thing that I've got is we do like little mastermind groups. Masterminds where we have like groups of 7 people, and it's almost like I'll hop on the phone, and if you've heard of masterminds, that's from Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. He talks about this idea of when people all collectively focus in on one outcome, like a third mind is created. Sounds a little bit woo-woo, but it's this idea of getting a group of people, like-minded individuals, and we have these little mastermind groups in groups of 7. Then we also have our coaching, which is more one-on-one coaching with me. I try and keep that to a minimum because if you think about it, it's work that I have to do, like I'm only going to get paid for it once, and I'm all about how can I create systems and products where I can replicate that. So this is kind of the way that my business is looking right now. But my very first business model, and this is the real key takeaway that I want you to take away from watching this right now, is down here is my services. So I've got my services, and this is where we started. So we started offering SEO. We started offering, we do like article distribution, which that's what we do with Danny, and that's how we sort of got to know him. We do things like Google Places listing, and we also do web video. Adrian's just started doing a web video for some of our clients and things like that. So, and I can show you here, before I built Melbourne SEO, so I'm all about using journals, I drew this map out, probably, maybe, that was one of them. That's one of the very first ones. I drew this map out probably about 18 months ago or a little bit more, and I knew what it was that I was going to build up front. So as you're building your business, you need to know what map you're building up front. You need to know this. And I would spend time building maps like this in your head to start off with, and then writing it down so you know what you're going to build. Now, once I've built a map that looks like this, the next question I asked myself is, how can I build this as quickly as possible? Okay, so we focused and started off down here. And why did I start off down here? Because you need to start on cash flow first, which I talked about. You always want to get that cash flow right in a business first, because that's going to fund everything else. I started on cash flow by delivering a service to clients where we were kind of exchanging our time, and I was investing time working with the clients. Then that ended up funding the creation of this. So we did this, then we started to get new team members and get everything in place. And then what did I do after I did that? Then I started to document my core processes. I talked about documenting those core processes, which is my SEO method. We had that all documented out. And then the next step, we started to build out info product. And I ran a series of workshops in Melbourne. And we ran these and then laid all of these out. And now, just now, we're starting to shift the business away from this, and I'm starting to shift it up into info product land. I'll still take this, but what do I do now? To reduce the number of clients, because we're fully booked, to reduce the number of clients, I start bumping the price up. And then people start falling away, and then it only makes it worth my while. I'll work with a client. You know, we now have filters for the types of clients that we'll work with. You know, well, I only want to work with a client that is happy to spend, you know, $4,000 up front for the setup, and then a couple of grand each month after that. And that reduces the type of clients that I'm targeting as well. And we often find that the clients that spend more are usually easier to deal with anyway. Like, I mean, it's the client who troubles over spending $500 to build a website, or, you know, $300 a month on SEO. They're the ones that are going to ask the most of you and are most frustrating. You'll actually find at the higher end, and you start to target clients where they have a higher lifetime value. So, I mean, a dentist is a good client for us because, you know, we might only need to generate a few clients a week for them, and then we well and truly pay for our services. So that's where we ended up starting to focus there. And now we're shifting to focus into this land up here. And then part of this land, which I'm going to go through, is about positioning as well. And that's when I start to position myself as the expert. And I'll show you how to do that with press releases, using media, to make sure that you position yourself as the expert so you can start to command that higher price. And then that kind of just... these products now up here start to look even greater value when you consider how much it costs to have, you know, us do it for you. And we go for this whole angle, like, I mean, Adrian wrote the autoresponder with me, and we have this kind of like, are you a business owner who, you know, there are two types of business owners. There's the business owner who wants to have everything done for them, and there is the business owner who wants to do it themselves and do it a bit more on a budget. If you're a business owner who wants everything done for them, click here. If you're a business owner who wants to learn how to do it, click here. So that way we can kind of start to do, shape that a little bit more. So this is, was built much smarter second time round. It's all under the one shopping cart. What else have I got down here? Something that I can control. And I really planned this out for it first, asked how could I build it quickest, starting off here, generating cash flow, funds the creation of this, and then shortly this business is not far off running on its own. And that's the real goal here. You want to get the business to be generating income without you, so you can either focus on building the business, and you know, the next stage is starting to acquire assets. Like, I mean, we're now moving into, we're buying and selling websites around this space. So we're targeting websites that are around SEO, outsourcing, web video and small business, and we're also targeting geographic related terms like Melbourne dentist, Melbourne chiropractor, and we're buying those types of .coms. So melbournechiropractor.com, and we're building up these portfolio of assets that can end up feeding into here and making this even stronger. So that's really what we want to try and start to think about. The reason I show you that is again, so you can keep bringing it back to you. The question you need to start to ask yourself now is, what can I do to make sure I have a clear plan of the business that I'm trying to build? Okay, so I just had a little note here, just to do with one of my coaching clients. Well, we've got a question down the front here. I might just quickly... That's okay. We've only got one mic at the moment, so I'll just run down here.
How did the melbournechiropractor.com and all that feed back into that? I don't understand.
Yeah, so the question actually came up on the audio, so you should be all right. How did those websites feed into here? We could start to target those websites, get them very easily ranked, like Melbourne Funeral Services, we rank #1 for that. Now it becomes a fantastic lead generator for down here. How much easier is it to me to go to a funeral client and me say, we already have the website that's ranking #1 for the term that you're going after. We email all of the funeral directors in Melbourne, and then we say, we can only work with one of you. Here's what we want. Who wants to, do it now, or your competition will? Like, I mean, it's a very strong positioning point for us.
So it's not a continuity payment to you?
No. Well, we've thrown around other ways to monetize it. That's the first way that we're looking. The second way is we're going to make it maybe like a directory site, where potentially we could just list all of the different businesses, and then they might charge, we might charge them $30 a month or something to get listed in that business. So that's another area that we're focusing on. Good question. In fact, just because it's the first question as well, I feel like you should be rewarded. There you go. Thanks. Okay, so the other thing I want to mention is one of my coaching clients, and this was that idea I was saying before. You really just need to make sure that you focus in on one particular area and don't just jump from place to place. One of my coaching clients, when he came to me, he's in the photography business, and we'll mention him a little bit later in the presentation. When he came to me, he had heard about internet marketing and started to get interested in it, and had a friend who was a real estate person, and they came up with this magnificent marketing strategy to sell internet marketing to real estate people, and build up these little portal websites and get them ranked. And I don't know, I had this massive idea, and I was like, you're a photographer, let's focus on your photography business and if you love internet marketing, let's start to do internet marketing on your business. And now it's starting to go crazy. We're starting to add Facebook components in. We're starting to make sure all of his on pages correct. we're just bringing in so many different elements into the business that he's already doing. So that's the point of this slide, and I want to let you know as well, this comes from a trading system point of view as well. From my trading background, we used to teach people how to trade the stock market. One of the early places I worked was Home Trader or Day Trader HQ, and the place where I went to learn, I ended up teaching there, but they had a fantastic trading system, and we found I could give you the perfect trading system and everybody could have the same trading system, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for you. Because a lot of people just can't follow through. It all comes down to in your mind. I'm going to give you a fantastic model for building any business and building that online presence today, but it comes down to you and then making sure that you actually start to implement it. So just make sure that you design your avatar, is making sure that you're targeting the right person. A lot of you have already got your businesses all sorted already, so just get really clear on who it is that you're marketing to and know that up front. This is one of those first stages. In fact, from here, that first little bit that I just went through there was a little bit of an introduction, I suppose, to bring you up to where we are right now, which is, there's my story. Here's the first business I built. I'm now up to the second business. I mean, there's little side businesses like the Planet 13 and the MCG type things and a few stories like that. But my core business at the moment being Melbourne SEO, get you up to where I am right now, show you what mine looks like, and now we're going to start to add in all of those elements. Well, how do we start to do that for you? So step one is get clear on who your avatar is. You need to know this up front. It's the person that you're going to be marketing to. It's your ideal client. And you want to make sure that you know that up front. So that way, whenever you do any marketing or any communication, you always think about that person when you market to. We've got a great client called Gary Barnett, and he's a print management client, and he is my perfect target market. When I am writing an email, when I am putting some web copy together, when I'm recording a video, I'm talking to Gary. I'm imagining I'm making a message to him, and that's what's going to connect with him. So you want to make sure that you do that. It's going to just influence everything. So do this early on. Talk about getting action plans and action steps, and you'll get them at the end of each session. One of the first action steps is get clear on who you're going to market to. The next one is get clear on building out your map. What does your map look like? What is it going to look like long term? That's a screenshot of one of my very first business maps for Melbourne SEO, and it was one of the ones that I showed you in the journal just before. Draw out what the business is going to look like longer term. Well, you're going to add different components in and things like that. Then sit down and write what is the recommended retail price you're going to be selling some of these products and services for. What is the cost of goods for those products and services, which is going to give you can calculate the net profit. So basically, I want you to draw a map and then go, here's what everything that I'm going to be offering in an ideal world, and we'll try and, we'll build towards that. And then once you do that, then you try and design the perfect month. So you need to sit there, and firstly, you need to figure out what your own personal goals are. This is not a Tony Robbins seminar, but figure out how much you want to make per month and calculate all of that sort of stuff out up front. And then when you design this map, then you can link it back to your personal goals and go, in a perfect month, what is a perfect month going to look like? For me, a perfect month most of our income wasn't from providing SEO to clients, because that meant it was going to be very labour intensive. So my perfect month, a couple of years down the track, was focusing in on the info product, because I knew that was going to be a lot less demand on my time. So get clear on that perfect month. And if you do this up front, I'm telling you now, it will make the world of difference. This is where most people go wrong. They don't do this. They don't build the map out. And then you get a situation like, I was lucky. My first trading business actually turned out okay, but that's because I was studying a lot of material at the time. But even now I look back and I see just flaws and holes. This right now, I'm in my own mastermind group, and I drew out this map for them probably about 12 months ago, and I wanted them to poke holes in it. And none of them, there was nothing where they thought, oh, had you thought about this? Had you thought about that? You want to design a real smart map, show other people, figure out what your perfect month looks like, make sure it maps your own personal goals, and then it's going to you can start to put it into action. Nothing worse than building out a business that didn't quite work out the way that you wanted it to, and didn't provide you the income that you wanted and that type of thing. So from there, the next thing that you want to do is draw out your team map. So you figure out what your business looks like, then you want to build out your team map. And for me, the whole aim of the game is to build a business that can work without me. The main core areas that I focus on, you'll be looking at marketing, operations, and fulfillment. And I've got a few little subcategories underneath there. And if you can grab them now, fantastic. If you can't, I'm going to make a recording of these, and I'll also get you the slides afterwards. But underneath each one, so marketing, you need to generate leads. You've got conversion, focusing on repeat sales, making sure that you watch your reputation. For fulfillment, you're looking at building up your support, creating new products, delivery, and then under operations, things like financials, legal, tech, human resources, that type of thing. So you need to figure out, for the business that I just drew this map for, what is the staff that I would need to run it? So who would I actually need to hire it? And now, to start off, you're probably going to, under all of these different roles, you put you next to every position. And if you've seen Rich Sheffrin's got a report, it was the Internet Business Manifesto, and he did this map at the start talking about why most businesses fail, and he did an organisational chart where the person's name was over everything. And, here's everything that you're supposed to be doing to build a business, and you're supposed to be doing everything. How are you getting anything done? And the real key takeaway for me was you need to build a team to plug in. Initially, you are going to be the one dealing directly with the client. I still chat with clients and I do a lot of that type of work. But you want to build that out first and then start to think in your head, who should I hire first? And there's a whole method for that. And if you want to find out more about outsourcing and building a team, of course, check out the outsourcing course. But the idea is build out that plan first and have that real step-by-step. Sally's just recently joined the team, and that was another reason for coming up here and running the workshop, because I thought it'd be a great training day for Sally. But this idea of, Sally was in order of who I was hiring. We started off getting some of the, e-support needed to be handled. All of our customer support stuff needed to be handled. So that was one of the first hires. Then I wanted to get the core strategies or the core components of the business outsourced. So we built a few more team members who were over in the Philippines. And then underneath that, then we started to go, well, video. I want to do more video, but I need to make sure that, we can't really outsource video, a lot of big files backwards and forwards. We got Adrian, and we have another video guy as well, Ben. And then, we need to look at the real financials. You need to get the financials down very early on. And Sally's come on board for that. And then, another hire that's coming shortly after Sally will be the marketing person. Now that I've got all of that back-end stuff all sorted, now we just want to crank it. It's almost like now this is built out. The aim of the game, this is all automated, and I'll show you how we automate it in some of the sessions as we move through. But because this is all automated now, the aim of the game is let's tip as many people in the top of this funnel as possible, and then just let it all drip through the automatic process and have, autoresponders and follow-up sequences and emails, and all of that's in there right now. So I drop people in here, they get introduced to everything that I do, the fulfillment house ships everything out so I don't have to do anything, and that's how you build a business. And you need to think about who you're going to hire and in what order. Most people get this wrong, and I know I'm only going to spend this first session on this, but this is, and it's probably maybe the least fun part. It'll be fun to talk about different video strategies and all this type of stuff, but this is how you build a business. So do more of that. And then what I'm going to show you, which is what the rest of the session's all about, the rest of today, we're going to talk about, well, how do we take this, and I'm going to pull this all apart, and this is the order in which I would go through when a client comes to us, and we charge them however much per month. This is the process I take them through, and this is the order in which we'll go through today. We'll start off next session talking about the web usability. How can we make sure that when people visit your website, they're going to pick up the phone and place the order? Then we'll have a look at SEO. How do we make sure that we get your website to come up #1 on Google by using backlinking strategies and things like that? We'll talk about using Google Maps and Google Places, how to make sure that, especially for local business now, that's core. It's coming up above the fold. It's pushing a lot of the organic search down. It's front and centre. Then we'll talk about autoresponders. How can we get a sequence of emails? People opt in for my free manifesto or your free whatever, and then they'll get a followed sequence after that, introducing them, bonding with them. Like, I mean, it's very unlikely that someone is going to stumble across my website and look at my SEO packages and just maybe, unless they're really looking for it, picking up the phone without knowing me from a bar of soap and spending $5,000 with me. They need to get to know me. They need to build up that trust. And that's what the autoresponder sequence is all about, building up that trust, that bonding, getting to know me, know that I'm a good guy, know that you can trust me, know that I can deliver, and I show all of that in that autoresponder sequence. Imagine doing something like that in your business, having it automated so that they're pre-sold. I want to make it so when a client calls me, they're not calling me up to say, how much is your SEO services, what is it that you provide? I want them to pick up the phone and say, I'm ready to order, let's book you in. That's the type of client I want to talk to. All the marketing takes care of everything, so that way when they're calling, it's more of go for the sale. Talk about the way to connect with people with web video. Web video is probably one of the lowest hanging fruit online right now. YouTube's the second biggest search engine. I think it's, how many hours, Adrian? Is it 48 hours of content is uploaded to YouTube every second or something like that? It's outrageous how much video content's going on there. That is where the game is at the moment. Video is where it's at. And you've got a fantastic video when you walk through Willows. I felt like I knew the place before I even got here. So using video is good. We'll talk about social media, using press release and how I use that to launch the whole MCG thing and how I used it to gain credibility in the stock market niche. And we'll talk a little bit about info products as well. I'm kind of going to mesh that in. That's kind of the order in which I would approach it as well. If you were growing your business, that's what I'd do. So action plan from here. Design your avatar, figure out what that treasure map is, design your team map. Then you just want to get a bullet point action plan from what I'm going to talk about today. That's the real takeaway. I will get you the videos to get the nitty gritty. If you want to get more detail, I'm going to give you more than enough to build a massive business through this one-day workshop. But if you want to find out the intricacies and things like that, and you can check out some of the other products. But you'll be able to get a bullet point action plan. That's my goal for you today, is to walk away and go, I know what I'm meant to do next, as opposed to, I've got 50 million new ideas, where do I start? Okay, so that was session one. If anyone's got any questions, otherwise, like I said, we've got a massive day, so I'm just going to go like that, back to back, for like 7 hours.